Good afternoon, everyone. A warm welcome to all our panelists here and our dear moderator, Mr. Uday Kulkarni. Thank you for being here. And this is the third day of the Global Lift and Escalator Virtual Expo, come conclave. So this is the first time we have put something together. Being in the industry for over 15 years, like I said, we've always brought first of its kind initiatives, so that we thought we would be the right people to even help the industry to experience virtual platform. So I'm really glad that we put this effort. And being the third day, the next session which we are going to talk about is developing a skilled workforce, both challenges and opportunity. And we have a great member of panelists here, and I would like to introduce them. To start with, let me start with Shakir. Shakir is the Managing Director of Fujitech India, an engineering graduate from PSD College of Technology, Coimbatore. He has more than 26 years of experience in the elevator industry, having worked in various capacities in UAE, Turkey, and other markets globally. His core capabilities include leading the Fujitech India team, developing and implementing company policies, overseeing the factory, its export operation to Southeast Asia, Middle East, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka, and the operational side of domestic business as per direction established in the midterm plans. Prior to taking charge as MD, he was the COO of Fujitech India. Welcome, Shakir. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me on the show.
Thank you. My next panelist is Garima Damija. She's the co-founder of Salto DeFe. I hope I pronounced it right. Consulting. She is postgraduate in management economics from IIM, Kozhikode, and Punjab University. She has over 25 years of experience in operation leadership, sales, talent management, capability development, leadership assessment, and selection. Garima has led several key assignments in people decisions and leadership development across industries. She continuously works with the C-suite for leadership development. She works with business schools for consulting projects and has co-authored several papers. She is a certified occupational personality questionnaire and Hogan assessor. She's also certified in coaching with emotional intelligence from Case Western Reserve University. Thank you so much, Garima. It's wonderful to have you here with us.
My pleasure.
My next panelist is Mr. Suresh Kalathur. He's the Deputy Managing Director at Mitsubishi Elevators India. He has over a decade experience in the elevator industry. Before this, he was the regional head of Maharashtra and Goa. During his tenure, he has secured many signature projects like Eon Waterfront, Panchil Towers, Signature Island, Adani Corporate Office, TCS Indore, Taj West Gateway Hotel, and International Tech Park. He expanded sales in Gujarat region, which facilitated opening a new branch office in Ahmedabad. He has worked in Otis Elevator, also served in other industries at companies like Kirloskar Oil Engine and Jost Engineering Limited. Thank you so much, Suresh, for being here.
Thank you very much.
Now coming to our moderator, Mr. Uday Kulkarni. Uday retired as a president of Schindler India and South Asia. He has over 30 years of experience in the elevator industry. He is also the recipient of Schindler Global Lifetime Achievement Award in 2019. And after retirement, he has started a new venture, Utopia, and the venture will be in the field of coaching, mentoring, training, and consultancy. Thank you so much to all of you once again, and over to you, Uday.
And welcome again, all of you. We interacted for the 5-10 minutes because the start. It was a very interesting warm-up session, can I say? So I go straight to the job. The first question, which I addressed to all three of you all, right? Maybe starting with Garima to answer it. 3 decades ago, right? Elevator industry always used to outsource 100% of its new elevator installation. Over the past decade or more, industry has gradually started moving towards in-house fitters. Fitters are the erectors. Gradually, I would say, not at a speed, but gradually. So what is your take on this? So Garima, as an outsider, can start. Probably she has been associated with the elevator industry for some time. But after that, we have the elevator men talking about it. So Garima, you can begin answering this question.
Thank you, Uday. I'll start with saying that I'm not an elevator industry expert, but I think the perspective that I bring is really about people and what they need and how do you skill and develop them. Now, I think I would not be wrong, and I'm sure all of you also would know probably better than me. It's going to be a $2 billion industry in the country, right? So it's a huge, huge industry already. And I think the elevator technician is probably what you would call the moment of truth. If I look at it as an outsider or even as a consumer, your fitters are your moment of truth, because while they're fitting, they're probably very prone to interacting with the location and the people there. And in an age where the consumer is used to now something like an omni-channel customer service, right? People are making inquiries on Twitter, talking to chatbots, and wanting that seamless experience that maybe I'll make an inquiry over Twitter and somebody will call me and say, oh, do you need this? So that's the space that the consumer is in from the technology standpoint. And here you have a fitter who's that moment of truth for the entire organization, because he's out there interacting. So I don't think there is a doubt in my mind that fitters are important. I also know that in the sense of the NCVT, and there is a quality framework that the elevator industry has for imparting training. I think there is some gap there in terms of how that quality framework is being implemented for training the fitters and technicians, etc. So, I mean, from what I know, I don't think there is a doubt that, I don't think there is a question why elevator industry is taking training in their own hands. Because here there is a very important individual who's your spokesperson, so to say, and there is a gap in terms of what is being done to train that individual. Not in terms of thinking. I think the thinking from the government standpoint is available, but really in terms of implementing it. And therefore, I think it is obvious that organizations like yours are taking over that training and saying that we need to give our customer the best experience and ensure safety. So like I said, your question really is, has a yes as an answer. And I think just to ensure safety, ensure great quality of customer service and quality is why probably the industry is taking over, players are taking over the training. So that's my view.
I can move over to Suresh and then probably after that, Shakir.
Thank you. It is, I fully agree with this, because now industry earlier, they used to do 100% through the subcontractor, I can say. Now we are moving into our in-house fitter, because this is the change which has happened. Basically, the kind of thing, as Garima is also has explained, the quality issues, because all these our in-house fitters have been trained in our training center and all, and everybody has been properly taken up this kind of global guidelines. So the kind of quality which we can manage as a Mitsubishi, as a brand across India, can be maintained with our in-house fitters which have been trained on this kind of activities. And main focus is also moved from outsource to in-house installation is also because of the safety. That is one of the major things which we have seen. Generally, when the subcontractors and outsourced people are working and all, suddenly we do not have some control on the site, some unauthorized people will enter and start working in that. And we have seen many kind of accidents and kind of incidents which has happened because of this unauthorized people who are working at shops without knowing that what kind of risk which is involved in that. So that is one of the things. We used to have a regular supervision of the subcontractor sites where we need to keep a lot of manpower and all to monitor. Sometimes it is very, very difficult to man entire subcontractor sites also is very different. That is one of the things where we always feel that in-house fitters is always better for the company to take care of safety and maintain this quality across the India for all the elevators and all, which is very, very important. But by saying so, first of all, the major thing comes is on the monitoring of the productivity of this in-house, our own technicians. That is one of the things which always goes, that how these people are performing, what kind of effectiveness of the productive hour they are utilizing it. Then another challenge what we have seen is suddenly if some kind of major project comes, we do not have that kind of manpower available to take up these kind of jobs. So that time it is always, it go back to the outsourced people to depend on that, and we need to utilize these kind of people also, because to monitor and completing this kind of project, because as we are coming up with future, we will discuss further also on this, because availability of the manpower and the trained highly skilled manpower is very, very big problem and is a big challenge for our industry today. So this is basically on the quality and the safety, and to implement our global guidelines and giving that kind of confidence to the customers. It is our industry is moving toward this, which is a very good sign, and we are fully agree with this kind of thing.
Yeah, Suresh, I agree with you. Thank you very much. It's safety and quality and the right people to be put on the job. That's where. What about your point of view, Shakir?
I think most of the points have been covered by Suresh. In fact, there are various models being followed. We have a balanced approach with both outsourced manpower as well as the in-house fitters. As the challenges are in-house fitters is the productivity which has to be monitored. Managing that also is a challenge. But with the outsource also, we have the quality and safety issues. Apart from that, the quality of the outsourced people also, to a large extent, if you have a site where you have four elevators, you will find about 2 experienced fitters, and balance are all be training, because the quality of people available with the outsourced subcontractors are also very, the levels are very concerning. That is why most of the companies have started looking for in-house, because at least we will be able to manage the quality part of it better, we'll be able to manage the safety part of it better. And the other thing is, though despite the quality levels of the outsourced people, the demand and the cost is so high that probably if you manage a little bit of productivity in-house, you'll be able to get better efficiencies. So the advantages are now moving towards the in-house fitters, because the other part of it is nowadays the equipments are all modularized. I think we're going to talk about it in the other going forward in this panel. But with the equipment design also being modularized to specific companies, which are being making it more suitable and to train a few set of people. So that also is another point wherein the companies are looking to bring in the fitters from in-house rather than external. So, and
So
the cost
friendly material.
Yeah. So the cost as well as the design of the particular company, the station-friendly design. So these are the other aspects also apart from Suresh, what we had mentioned on quality and safety, which the companies are looking into have in-house fitters for.
And I think one more thing, probably, I don't know, in my opinion, it is also the attrition among the outsourced people versus what can the attrition be for people working in the company. That also can be one of the parameters which has pushed the industry to move towards in-build. Okay, 30 years back, when I joined the elevator industry, whatever training I'm talking about, technical training always used to be at site, on the job training, they used to call it OJT. Now, I believe many of the elevator companies in India, I'm talking about in India only, have started putting up their own training centers. So no more the on-the-job training is the model. So why did this change take place to have an in-house training center? I can start with Shakir this time.
Yeah. Thank you. The reason for this in-house training center, as I touched upon in my previous reply, many companies are coming up with their own design to speed up and increase the productivity of the installation team also, because ultimately to achieve that, the product will have to be designed properly. So they have very much modular concepts wherein they need to train differently, which are different from the industry. So, which is now encouraging this in-house training facility. And of course, in-house training facilities, as we said, as they rightly said, the attrition also is a very big aspect. And now, when we give these facilities to the people of training and then give them a career path of moving in the company as an in-house fitter, they're more comfortable to come and work. The attrition level with this model is much lesser, when compared to an outsourced model. Outsourced model, if we have an outsourced model, every day you will find a different person on the site, and that makes things really very difficult for the work to happen on the site. So I think this aspect, and then the safety of the employees, and as times are changing towards the modular concept, I think more and more companies are looking for in-house training.
Yeah, thank you, Shakir. What about your point of view, Suresh?
Yeah. Uday, as you said rightly, because now we are moving. Earlier, we used to do, as you called, OJT, on-job training, which was very, very popular because people used to do it at the site. Now, because of, as you also mentioned, that majority of the companies are having a training centers in-house along with the factory, all the facilities which are available. So the major advantage why it has been moved, shifted is, generally whenever we are preparing a training schedule, we always used to look at that whether the site is ready, whether that product is available at the site, because based on the site readiness and site availability, the people is to prepare that kind of job training and other things. And today that is completely eliminated because we have the empty are available, escalators are available, jigs are available. So we can make this kind of plan very effectively in-house and all. That is one of the shift which has happened. Then also there are majority of the participants, especially we can do site-wise, we cannot call so many people for the site to have this kind of training. Then also when we start doing the skill level of a person, then when we wanted to do the same skill level of the people all over India, we can have it in the training center. We can share their own experience with others and the learning will be very effective rather than calling 5 people, 6 people at site, because we cannot have more and more people at the site because sites are very, very dynamic. Customer may not allow these kind of things also happen.
Exactly.
So that is one of the things where the kind of cross knowledge sharing also will happen. That is one of the things. The major one which is also had a shift because of the permissions. Some customers are very particular that they may say yes. Suddenly they say that some urgent things have come up, so they may not give that kind of also shafts and all for us for giving a training to our ITF fitters and all. This is another thing, is a major thing which has shifted. Then whenever these people goes to the site, they can see the shaft from only from the front side. So they don't know what is the other 3 sides because it is completely covered. Whereas in the training center, the kind of visualization, shaft visualization can be done from other 3 sides also, so that they can understand what kind of things which are available, especially in the training center and the shaft and other kind of components. The major another which I can add is, whenever we do a testing and all on the kind of training, see, there is always a possibility that there is a PCB failures will happen at the customer, because when we start doing it, somebody will do some kind of testing and all, some kind of equipment or some kind of parts failure also will definitely happen, because that is the biggest kind of thing challenge where we cannot even convince the customer. So whereas all this kind of risk mitigation which we have taken at our training centers, people can start using it on their own. People can really practically, they can practice all the things and all, which will always is a very kind of thing. We can start doing customization also on the troubleshooting and other things. So with all these kind of advantages, the real shifting which has happened, which is really effective, and the kind of thing which is under control and which is really taken place very well on this.
Yeah, the simulation and all that is, it is more organized and controlled, and we don't depend, or we are not at the mercy of the customers. That's in fact very good. I will ask the same question to Garima in a little different way. Garima, you're not only seen elevator industry, but also seen other industries. Specifically on the subject of on-the-job training, what is the model other industries follow and how effective it is? Because elevator industry has just started this around a decade ago. So what is your take with other industries on the job training moving towards classroom or their own in-house training?
Yeah, but I think that's a very powerful question on why not on job training. And when I was listening to Suresh, I was just thinking of an analogy in my mind, thinking that think of a sports person, somebody who's going to compete in, let's say, the Olympics or national games. Now, that person possibly practices for a whole year for a performance which lasts maybe 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. And all that is at stake there is that person's performance. Here, your fitters, your technicians are fitting an elevator where safety is paramount. They need to practice before they perform. And like it goes, in many other industries, you do need practice. Now, just for another quick example, think of a doctor. You would not let a doctor operate until he has done like 7 years of studies, right? And then some internship with another doctor. So that internship or OJT, so to say, is only after you are fundamentally educated. You have the conceptual, theoretical understanding, and you know what is to be done. So in that sense, just only an OJT is an incomplete framework in itself, right? And therefore, I think that, like I already said, you can't perform without practicing. Now, coming to what is happening in other industries, I can quickly tell you that I know that in many industries, for example, there will be a regulatory authority which will have some oversight, for example, in the insurance industry, there is IRDA, which says that you need to do so many hours, you need to have so many marks before you qualify to be an agent. I am not quite sure, what is the kind of regulation that is either, if there's a framework or if it is being implemented and to what an extent. I do understand from my theoretical research that there is a quality framework, so to say, but I'm not quite sure how much it is implemented. But I think what I compare the elevator industry is probably to, let's say, healthcare, just purely because the stakes are really high from the sense of safety, right? You have people's lives at stakes, not to talk of customer service. So I think it may not be so appropriate, let's say, to compare it to a retail industry where you're selling a product. And I know retail industry also is doing a lot of in-house training now, as compared to OJTs. They have now these academies and training centers and small universities and so on and so forth. So while that might be a comparison, I think it's a little apple to orange comparison. The comparison ideally should be with an industry where safety is of importance. And therefore, I'm saying that probably there is some merit in maybe a consortium of organizations or a regulatory authority which standardizes all of this. And that's what you're seeing in many other industries. So that's the trend from industries where safety is important. There has to be some kind of foundational quality measures on skilling. With that, I will pause.
Very well. The example you give of the doctors is a very, very apt example, because even the elevator is a lifeline of a building, and whoever installs the elevator has to do it right, because it's kind of married to the building for the life of the building. And if it is not done right, it is directly, or I would say indirectly, directly related to the lives of the people. So that job has to be
well. If you would allow, Uday, I just wanted to mention one more point on this question. I think the point which I wanted to make is actually earlier the OJT used to be a sort of a guru shishya sort of arrangement. You send the shishya to the guru, and then
little bit of unorganized, though on one-on-one.
Unorganized training setup. And he takes his own sweet time. Maybe he teaches him in 3 years, or maybe he teaches him in 4 years. So there used to be a gap there, and by the time I could make this shishya a productive guy, it used to be indefinite, and it used to be a big issue for the elevator people. So, but now having them come inside, now I'm able to get productivity even more fast. So I guess that's a very important point why the companies also have thought about bringing this in-house.
And also the other point, Garima, you mentioned, now I think most of the people itself specify that they need to have certain qualifications for the erectors, for the fitters to come in. So by default, the elevator industry is forced to give those kind of people who are trained either ITI or in elevator. So that I think by default it is happening, though it is much slower probably than other industries, in my opinion. Like even if you look at the capital product industries like air conditioning or boilers and all, they're a little ahead of the elevator industry, but elevator industry is catching up with that. Having said that, let me move to the third question, which we are talking about, a customer centricity. Now let's look at a fitter. We will move to the other training parts a little later on. The fitter who is actually at site is actually exposed to the customer right from the owner to probably the project manager and other people. So there is an interaction between the customer, I would say. And in today's norm, any employee who is interacting with the customer has to go through basic customer orientation program. That is the belief, right? That's a modern management. What is your take on giving soft skill training to the hardcore technicians or fitters, and to what level? Because when they are talking to the customer, they should not be those typical hardcore technicians. They have to also look from the customer's point of view. Their language has to be different. So which means every company has to impart some soft skill training. So what is your take on this? This, I think I will finish with the elevator industry and then come to Garima, who has recently started this. So Suresh, I would want your opinion on this. Is it worth giving soft skill training to hardcore technicians?
Yeah. It's a very good question, because today I fully agree with you, because today the kind of challenge which comes is our hardcore technicians. They feel their job is only to complete the callback or the kind of thing, and the customer satisfaction will be somebody else's job. It is not their job.
Correct.
So customer at the other side, customer feels what this man has come, what he has done, what he has, completely, he is completely in dark. So these kind of things always happens. Customer sometimes comes during the AMC negotiations that what you have done, what is the kind of value addition you have done. See, so many kind of things, there is a gap which we have seen in the elevator industry. So that is what, when we have started looking at this kind of thing, we started doing the internal training programs for the people, for the behavioral training, soft skill training. Then we started hiring the outside agencies also to have kind of training for our people, which has made these people also to understand, because customer centric or customer satisfaction is a responsibility for each and every person in the organization, because we are in the service industry, and without customers and all, we cannot survive. Anybody cannot survive in this market. So we are also not only doing it because, and second important thing, Uday, our technicians also goes not only in installation, even in maintenance, because we are providing 24/7 services for the customer. Because sometimes we go in the midnight, sometimes we go in the early hours and all. The way how we can make the customer to be disturbed and all, and we are doing it because these are all require a lot of soft skills to explain to the customer. Then we are also doing that full-fledged kind of training program for the people also at our training center. So how they need to handle the PCBs, how they need to do that with the different jigs and all the things. But end of the day, all these people should go and start working with the kind of safety, quality, and the full reliability. And everyone should be a customer centricity in his DNA. It is very, very important for everyone to understand. Without customer, we cannot survive in this kind of business. That is very, very important, which always comes up for everybody in this. Either it will be a starting technician or the managing director of the company, which is very, very important for us to take care of the customer. Because we need to do that, because there are some people, they don't want to change. We know we have many examples. And today, change is inevitable and changes are for the better. So first of all, for all the things, we need to anticipate what is the customer needs, for especially looking at this kind of thing. And always it is very important for our technicians also to collect the customer whenever they go. Whether he has done it in 10 minutes or 15 minutes or half an hour, the kind of service, whether customer is satisfied, what is their customer expectation on this? And always customer is looking at that kind of thing, that whether the person is easily accessible or we need to go through so many channels to kind of getting into this kind of thing, because it will irrate the customer and all for getting the kind of people also on this. Then most of the time meeting person in person to a customer can get a lot of feedback, so that it will be helpful for the company to make our own strategies to work very, very better in the organization. But my last point, what I wanted to say is, always everybody has to see a customer look. We need to look beyond the sale, because always the study always shows it will cost nearly 5 times more to attain a new customer. We cannot go on going to a new customers every time. So we need to retain, and customer centricity, customer centric is a DNA for any organization to survive and to sustain this kind of challenges in any kind of environment.
Yeah, I agree with you, Suresh. My opinion would be a good technician, customer-oriented technician will give a company a better business than a salesperson. Yeah, Shakir, your point.
Very true. Very true. There, I totally agree. Technicians and fitters are also the face of the company in front of our customers. So customers and users, whoever, and I would like to take us down a little bit on the memory lane for the elevator industry. At one point of time, about 2 decades back, there were a couple of monopolistic companies in the market, and that sort of attitude sometimes tries to be there in the employees, which we are trying to train them, and of course see how best we could change that approach, because we believe in being a service industry. Customer centricity should be a culture in the organization. It should be a process. It should be a part of the process, and that's why I always like Garima also being a part of this, because anybody outside the elevator industry, I love to see that, because elevator people seem to have a very focused sort of thought process, and having people from outside the box, we try to recruit people from other trades
Industry.
we can use, and we could train, because I think this skill side required there is yes, these equipments work by itself and they have their own AI and they are able to handle it. But the more important thing is how we serve our customers and how the people are able to handle them, because even a technician at the lowest level, when he comes into a building, he would be faced by a person entering the lift, and he should know how to say good morning, good afternoon. Those basics also are very important sometimes. So we tend to bring in some fresh blood into these stream of people also. It's not only the elevator people. We like to recruit and bring in outside industry people. And this is how we try to, and definitely we have to be customer centric, otherwise we are.
Absolutely. Yeah, the same question with a small twist, Garima. You have been, I'm aware, or probably I know that you are dealing with some of the hardcore technical people in the elevator industry. My main question is the same question, but a little bit of a twist. Are they trainable material from the customer orientation point of view?
So I'll answer that question in 2 ways, Uday. I think it's a fair question to ask. I would first like to say that the short answer is that customer service is a skill. There is a mindset part to customer service, but mindsets also can be shifted. So when I was hearing Shakir speak, I was thinking of a change management initiative we did with one of the elevator companies, where one of the parts of the change management agenda was to shift the mindset on dealing with the customer. Basically to say that customer service, there is no team called customer service. Salespeople are customer service, if you have an existing installation team, that's customer service, new installation team, that's customer service, technicians, everybody is customer service. If your support functions, your HR folks, your finance folks are standing on site, they're customer service. So it's not a predefined function, so to say. And I have no doubt that everybody can be skilled as far as the skill goes. And therefore, the openness to hiring from other sectors, I think it's a great place to begin, because then you break out of the shackles of working in a certain manner. I also know that in your industry, people stay in the industry for a really long time, right? They don't sort of move around industries, which might be true of other industries also. But it definitely happens here. And therefore, to get, like Shakir was saying, some fresh blood, to be able to know that this possibility exists, that customer service is a skill. So that's the skill part of it. On the mindset part of it, again, I think if you have the right people and the right intervention and right effort done there, and like I said, I'm privy to some work, having done that work. Obviously, with a mindset, let's say you try to change mindsets of like 3,000 people, you have to stay at it for some time, and therefore it becomes a cultural shift, right? And that cultural shift obviously does not happen overnight or in a few weeks. You have to stay at it and continue to do those things, and through various ways. You could have it's something on a process, you have something on a skill, you have something, even the infrastructure built in a way that is conducive to customer service. So, like I said, the short answer is yes, but the long answer is that there is a lot of long-term and consistent effort to be done there.
Great. So let's move to our next question. Again, this time I start with you, Garima. Your contact with the elevator industry is a few years old. From the skill imparting point of view, it's a little similar to what I had asked you earlier. Skill imparting point of view, how different it is from the other industries, and what do you think are the best practices elevator industry can take from there, or learnings also?
Yeah. So, Uday, I'll be very honest and sort of talk to you about what I have noticed on the ground as, let's say, an external consultant to the elevator industry. One thing is that because of the safety requirements, generally overall the level of mindfulness and therefore stress is high in people, right? It's like a doctor is mostly stressed because the requirements are so important and so critical, right? So that's something that I have experienced, and therefore and I remember having this discussion with you there a couple of years ago. It's important that people start with self, before they say what will we do for the organization, to say what can I do to improve as an individual where I am, my skills, my mindsets, and then go on to what will I contribute to the organization. And I remember we had done a really good framework around that, Uday. I'll not go into the details of that. But really, to move from self to team to organization is probably the way, I think this can be approached. Now, I don't think there is a comparison with any other industry, but I think the best practices would definitely be that there is some fundamental customer orientation that's built in across all training programs. I mean, across, to cover everybody in the organization. I think that's, even if it's like a self-paced learning, etc., provided to you virtually, and everybody needs to be certified. It's like saying that every technician needs to be certified on safety. Everybody needs to be certified on customer service. I don't think there's going back from there. I think I wouldn't call it a best practice, but given the nature of the industry, like I already said, something to do with saying, how do I work with myself so that I can deal with difficult situations? Difficult situations are probably when there is a compromise on safety or something like that happens. I think that is important, definitely. Definitely standardizing the skilling programs, so that across, I don't know if it's possible across the industry, but definitely within the organization, to say that everybody is trained at the same level of quality of requirements from the customer and servicing the customer. I think that's something that's important. And generally organizations achieve standardization by certification to say that, sort of, customer service 1.0, customer service 2.0, that's sort of, a phased and leveled journey. So I think those are some things, those are like low hanging fruits, while of course, going back to say that mindsets on servicing the customer and saying that it's not a job of a particular department is probably a longer term goal that an organization can have. And I think that's the same journey that many other sectors have gone through. I have also worked at the front end in retail for many years. When I started my career, I was doing a lot of operations and sales and so on and so forth. And I think the journey there is the same. How do you upskill the person who's on the ground, touching base with the customer day in and day out, and to what extent? So while I wouldn't say the problems are complex to solve, but they're definitely not easy to solve, So what I'm trying to say is that they're not unanswered questions. I think really the skilling and development of individuals is really a question of a buy-in from the leadership and then rigorous implementation. So that's my sort of the entire framework. I'm talking to you of a buy-in from leadership. So really that strategic thinking on this, then the framework based on certification, and then rigorous implementation. So that's my thought on this.
I agree with you. In fact, coming to what Shakir was saying, changing the mindset is very, very important. And what you're saying is the person has to start from the cell, follow a certain process to get into what he or she can deliver to the company. And that's where the summation of all this hard work and I would say strategic work will definitely give results. Okay, let's move to something a little more technical, which a question to you, Suresh. Typical building in India, okay, because I would say in India, because it's a little challenging from the site work. Like, okay, to give you examples, the plumbness of the shaft for high-rise buildings, or maybe the safety thing of the staircase not being correct, or water coming from the shaft, quite challenging. And Shakir mentioned about having a field-friendly material, which is the modular concepts in the elevator, which is also gradually happening. So do you think with this challenging situations of the building, the modular concept plus the training is just going to help, or do you need some kind of education with the real estate industry or the developer industry in case overall success has to happen?
Yeah, thank you, Uday. So it's a very good question, Uday, because generally when we go in the field, we face a lot of challenge. Generally, in some of the instances where we have seen the machine room, there is no access. There is no access to the machine room, even there is no ladder. And the builder always expects that, elevator company can do a jumping and all, and we can start installing the elevators and all, which is
I
highly risky area.
Any building site as an adventure park. It is an
adventure park. Exactly right. You nailed it. So like water shipping, before starting the job, we do a kind of job site preparation before we starting the work. We go and check the entire building from top to bottom, whether what kind of hazardous areas which are there at the site, so that people can come back. In the stores, there is a blackboard or any kind of thing they mention. There is a loose wires. Some vendors are working. There is a water seepage. So while going on the steps and all, we need to be very, very careful. These kind of things always happens in this thing. But when we are following the kind of safety for our employees, for the vendors, for the subcontractors, everybody, but sometimes because of this challenging dynamics at the site, sometimes builder feels or other vendors feel that it is not a big challenge. What we are seeing.
An excuse.
So this is
you are giving excuses.
That is an excuse. Yes. So they will ultimately push us to accept these kind of challenges and all, and to complete the job on time. So this is the biggest kind of thing challenge what we always face. And even very well, because of even a small incident, which will flare up in so many ways, We need to go on doing that investigation, manpower loss. So many people have to go there, understand how it has happened. So root cause analysis, 5 Eyes, there is a lot of things which we need to do it for a small incident which happens, either from builder side or any kind of. So keeping that kind of thing, as you rightly said, because this modular concepts in elevator material. See, this is the one of the thing, even sometimes we always see that the material at the stores, what we generally storing the materials, we store because elevator generally have more than 1,000 components. There are many kind of components which will be stacked in different kind of things. When we start looking at this kind of components, people to open all the boxes, because to identify, suppose one entrance, they need to fix up. The different components will be there in different kind of boxes. They will generally go and open all the boxes first. This is a kind of tendency because they wanted to complete the job because of the pressure which is coming from all the side. So whenever sometimes we see there will be a lot of material, will be loose material is lying in the store. Then a lot of material you can find kind of damage or pilferage. You know, nowadays the sites and all will have some water seepage, the water will come. So many kind of challenges which will happen. And if any kind of component will pilferage or any kind of thing which we lost, again, it is a big Hercules task to order for that kind of material. Again, we can bring it back. Again, the timelines will go. So by doing that, again, the different components which will be there in different boxes, a highly skilled person is required to identify that component which is really going for the installation of that particular job site. So now in many countries and all, which is already introduced in India also, we are introducing this concept and all. Now we have started, but it is not 100% full-fledged. We are doing it, but we are moving toward that. The stage-wise kind of thing, which we are doing it so that if someone is doing an entrance, all entrance kind of components which is available in one box, so that he can go, he can open that kind of thing, he can install that and they can move into the next stage. Then again, there is a cabin, rails and all cabin, the rails on the kind of thing which again comes on the things and all. Again, there is a kind of color coding which is required for a person to identify what is the kind of thing which is really going to take that kind of thing. Otherwise, you have to always go and get that kind of highly skilled people only to execute this job. Then other people, it will be very difficult to even identify components also. Generally, a kind of saying people says, if you want to really see a house which is well organized, you have to go and see in their kitchen. This is generally the people will say that.
Right.
So in the same way in elevator, if a customer wanted to see how professionally people are managing the kind of thing, let them come and see the stores, how well organized in the store. Because earlier stores and all the material will be kept at one place. So someone has to go, really he has to do an Hercules task to open all the material and take out. Today, you can go and see there is a full body harness has been lying at one place, very clearly. Even you can see the person names is mentioned on the full body harness. Even the people who are working at site, the name of the people and all is clearly mentioned, what kind of thing. The hospital details are mentioned very clearly. The kind of stacking of the material has been organized in a highly professional manner. If anybody comes inside, he need not go and see inside the shaft how the people are working in very professional manner. If you can see the stores with a kind of organized things, so he can understand the way the professionally the elevator is going to install in a highly qualitative and the professional manner, so that the next 20-25 years, we should not bother about the quality of equipment. Because this is the major thing which always goes into this kind of thing. Otherwise, it is very difficult today to have all the material at one place and started searching, because productivity loss, the kind of days it will take for identifying these kind of things, which will be really a big challenge for us. So by keeping the safety, job site challenges, so if we can provide this modular materials and all in the kind of boxes and storage and the kind of thing stage-wise, which will be really helpful for the fitters who can do a fantastic job, and we can meet the kind of timelines what customer has given to us, so that it will be more and toward the customer-centric organization.
I agree. I think Shakir started with the modular comment, which is true. What is your take on this, Shakir?
Yeah, actually, definitely the skill levels are a scarcity nowadays. We all know, and now we are all getting millennials. And to work with millennials is very difficult. And
That's a good one. Anyway,
we need to. I would put it another way. I won't say it is difficult. I would say we need to find a different way to work with them. You know, and so be with the concept of installing elevators. So that's where the modular installation process is very much going to be useful. There should be no thinking on the side. The thinking should be done on the drawing board, on the engineering board. So that's going to be the success for the company. And it's the product which has to become more modular, more installation friendly, more so that because we cannot upskill people to that level nowadays. It's very difficult to bring them up. And also if whatever we try to do, there is going to be a shortage. So I think going forward in a few decades or maybe a few years from now, we have to see how to make the product simple. Probably elevator installation should become as simple as an air conditioning installation. You know, we have to come and think of and come out with some innovative way of doing the installation process. Otherwise, it's going to be really difficult for us.
In fact, the other day in one of the panel discussions, we had discussed a similar kind of a subject. And the conclusion, just to share with you, anything in the elevator industry, we're talking about elevator industry, is 90% planning and 10% execution. So if the planning is right from you mentioned the drawing board, people always use that word drawing board. But many people don't understand the seriousness of a drawing board. If everything is done right there, I think it happens completely. And 10% is execution. It is just a matter. And one more important thing is, for an elevator site, the most important star, or what we call is Rajinikanth, has to be the project manager. If the project manager is not a Rajinikanth, then I think you are in for big problems. But having said that, one thing which I think both of you all did touch upon it, but not completely, which I would like Garima to probably complete. From the developer point of view, Garima, there's a lot of opportunity for us to educate them to be in line with whatever innovation the elevator company comes in. So what do you think is the best way of doing it? Can you guide the elevator industry? How do you kind of, like Suresh mentioned, water falling into the shaft? Now, if you go to a normal developer project manager, okay, in the rainy season, water will fall, but water doesn't fall from a open sky, right? It's falling into the shaft. I mean, something is wrong somewhere. So what can you do about it? Which means the attitude and the educational program needs to be done even there. If what these two gentlemen, elevator gentlemen, are talking about has to be implemented, it has to be, loose ends have to be tied up from that side. So what do you think can be the ideas you give to the elevator industry to take up that initiative as an educational program?
Yeah, I think I'll take off from where Shakir left. But before I do that, I think the other thing that was coming to my mind when I was listening to all of you was that lately when I travel, I see a lot of these very fancy elevators, right? I think you call them smart elevators. There are very few switches and you don't know whether the elevator is going up or down. And sometimes, the elevator just comes and you can't press anything because there is some digital thing happening there, and you will enter the lift only when you're going to a certain floor. So the lift opens only. So a lot of, technological advancement is happening there. And when I was looking at the smart elevator concept the other day, I also thought that maybe there should be a smart fitter or smart technician, who would really keep up with the times and say that, if I'm on site, then I am the salesperson, I am the customer service person, and I'm the engineer, so to say, right? And then is like really a whole person all of those things garbed into one. That would be really ideal. Yeah, but to answer your question, Uday, what I heard from Shakir, I think that's really applicable. If you have education or training which is planned to the T, all your do's and don'ts and are what I call, sorry to use that word, but idiot proofed, saying, it really doesn't depend on the person at all. The process itself is so robust that regardless of who does it they don't make mistakes. And of course, there are human beings involved and there'll still be errors, and there is margin for error always that you build in. But I think really looking at, all of these things that, you were talking about, saying water falling from the shaft, etc., is really is I think a conundrum of quality, right? Conundrum of saying, can we have a Six Sigma or something like that, which I'm not sure what really operates at the moment, but having planned and created those checklists and really on the ground saying that we have covered all kinds of possible situations that could come and given answers even before the person goes on the floor, and it all can be done. It's not an undoable thing. It's just a lot of thinking and planning of putting those cases together, putting those situations together, making sure that people are listening and learning, and and then send them on the shop floor. So I think that's the easy answer. Like I keep saying, that the answers are easy, the implementation is really the hard part. So I think and some of these other industries have done it to some extent, in the sense of, now think of how call centers work, right? I mean, they have, the FAQs are clear to them, when to put down the phone and when to call somebody, and when can they actually take an action themselves, etc. So really that planning, I don't know if I'm giving you the right analogy, but the point I'm making is that the detailing of the education that goes to them has to be really, cross all the T's and dot all the I's, and then certify them. And that could possibly be one way of solving for this.
So, initially earlier, I think it was Shakir, we made a passing reference to the millennials, the new generation which is coming. But finally, they are our future, right? No doubt about it. I don't think the millennials, we don't understand. Many people, majority say we don't understand. Actually, I think we don't understand if we are not in the position to answer their whys. They have much more whys than what we used to have, at least I used to have during my growing career grace or earlier days. They have a lot of whys. And when we cannot have answers to the whys, we feel frustrated and say, what is this? You are a millennial crowd. So that is something which is very, very important to look at. And we always say, it's always nice to mold a child into what is the future going to be. Having said this, from the elevator perspective, elevator and escalator industry perspective, do you think going right to the architect schools or management schools in starting a base, like I have seen many of these management schools have courses on everything but elevators. Architect schools, I have probably a lecture for the final year once in a year on elevators. What is the elevator look like, and what are the speeds and what are the capacity? That is definitely not enough. With the digitalization coming in, technology changing, and what today is the world looking at, or what the people are wanting, what customers are wanting, we need to do a little more than that. So as a group together, two from the elevator industry and one from outside, but from the training industry, going back to school and having some kind of program so that we can mold our children to become our future in the elevator and escalator industry. Not only that, it can also be probably an attraction for them to join the elevator industry rather than other industries. So what is your take on that? Let's be very detailed on that, because this is a closing question, and whatever comes out of this discussion probably will be one of the things we can carry forward for the industry and add value to it. So with this, I would start with Suresh on this subject, followed by Shakir and then Garima. Yeah, Suresh, are you there? I think there's an internet problem going on, or I think Shakir, probably you can start and we'll have Suresh solve his problem. Yeah, go ahead.
In fact, this is a very pertinent question for our industry. I think if you see the total demand of people who are joining, for example, the total elevator industry has got about 55,000-60,000 elevators being installed, and probably, and so to do this, probably to take 4 elevators for team also, you need about 30 to 40,000 people in this industry for the installation side, which are working on it. And then we have an organized, probably I would say about 50,000 people overall on the segment. Plus, we will need some engineering graduates also coming to this industry. And but the whole intake of manpower into this industry is not as much as what we look at as an IT course, or for example, an IT company. They have because we've gone to various colleges and spoken to them. And they say that how much is going to be your intake. So I don't have an answer to that. So because we take and that too, the other problem is I'm in Chennai and somebody else is headquartered in we have in Bangalore, in Mumbai, in Pune. So then they say that why don't you look at a probably an in-house program for yourself to manage your additional training. Of course, I would prefer if these colleges could do some in schools. I would like to do probably an educational side of the training so that they could understand elevators better. They would know what this animal is and how to deal with it, how to plan this. Because even the biggest of the architects in India says the room size, first they talk about the room size and everything. The elevator, the last bit, they say this corner is the elevator. Very rarely I find people giving a lot of importance to it. Of course, now a little bit of importance is coming in with a lot of MNC companies coming in, putting in requirements, performance requirements. But still, the majority is still with this feeling that this is the last priority. If you talk about an escalator, the escalator is such a dangerous gadget. Nobody knows about it. We would definitely need to educate the children and the people in the colleges. Elevator companies have got responsibility to educate them. I think with this, at least they will get to have more awareness about this product and system. But if the universities and colleges are willing to do some courses or some specific courses, there are already a few courses available in the country. That would be a welcome gesture, but definitely they would. I don't know how many children would choose that because the opportunity here is not as much as in the other industry. So that's a question which I have.
Okay, in fact, that's what, in fact, I was trying to suggest that as a team together, which I'll talk later on, but we will have Suresh talk about this. Suresh, I think you were a little on the internet connection problem, but I hope you heard that question, right? So can I have your opinion on that?
Can you repeat, Uday? Sorry.
What I was trying to say is, I started with the millennial crowd and why millennial. You heard that. So yes. I was looking at a child has to be molded right at the earliest stages. So why not as a team, we go to the architectural schools and management schools and start talking about the elevator industry and how important it is and what are the skills which are required. So, they come right from there. And not only that, it will also help us to get the best of the brains or best of the skill levels. So it is an initiative which has never been taken. Maybe people are not interested because a number game, right? Shakir was saying IT guy will have big numbers coming in. So what is your input? Those questions are asked. So it's a put off for us because we have a business of only 60,000 elevators per annum in the country, right? Compared to what an IT or anything else. So we have to make it as a team more attractive together. So what can we do differently to make that thing happen? First of all, is it important that we make it happen? Or if it is important to make it happen, how do we make it happen?
Yeah, thank you very much for repeating this because I fully agree with you because it is very, very important for the person to understand awareness has to be given from that age so that he can understand the importance of these kind of things. Because otherwise, we have seen many kind of IT buildings when we go. When elevator is opening or elevator is closing, people try to use their bag and they try to open the door with a forcible manner. And they try to put this kind of bubble gums on the kind of buttons and all, and they try to play around because this is going to be a lifeline for the building. And the kind of how the usage and all, as Shakir has clearly mentioned, that escalator is such a gadget. We have seen many kind of accidents and all which happens. People think that it is like a, a kind of toy where they can play around with this kind of thing. But from my side, what we have, even all the companies are doing it, because especially on the societies, we have started doing this kind of awareness session to the ladies and all housewives and the children in the societies. We take that kind of responsibility to go and explain to the people then how they have to be careful while using the elevator and escalators. And we give that kind of presentations. We make them understand also this is an awareness session, which we do it for the residential societies. And also we go to the schools and we try to explain to the children, because when they are small, that time when we put a seed, then it is always better than once they grow, they can start following these kind of things diligently. That is one of the things which we have done. But millennials, kids and all, this is the biggest problem, because we need to go to the architects schools and all, and we need to try to explain that this is the some of the thing which will definitely helpful, because these are the people, once they complete the course, they are going to join in one of the biggest firms. And it is always helpful for us to make these elevators to be safe, and how they can design the elevators also on the safest side, which is always helpful. But we need to really take this as a lead to kind of thing which we need to represent. We have to really take out our time from our kind of schedule, rather than only looking at the numbers. As a kind of social responsibility, we need to move forward and start doing it, which will be really helpful for the things to grow in the future.
So any ideas how to take it, Garima? Any
Yeah.
ideas as
Yeah.
outsider?
Yeah, there were a lot of thoughts. So they're coming to my mind also, because I have been on the academic side and worked with a lot of business schools as well. And I have some sense of how they operate and what really drives them. And very quickly, before I go to what is the idea, I was just thinking of a time about 15 years ago when there were three industries which were at an inflection point at that time. One was retail, one was real estate, and one was insurance. And when I say inflection point, is from the training, skilling, education standpoint. And at that time, because I was closely involved with some of these B schools, there were either some large organizations in these sectors or a consortium of organizations which approached B schools. And when I say B schools, I'm talking about the tier 2, not the top institutes in the country, and said that, we have a requirement, for example, for 30 people or 15 people or 100 people who are business school graduates in our field. And we will hire them year on year, maybe as a group or as an organization. And not one, but multiple business schools started these courses. Some of those sustained, some didn't, but not for want of, those that didn't sustain was not because the industry wasn't interested, because the B schools couldn't keep up. What I'm trying to highlight here is that if as an organization or as a consortium of organizations in the industry, you approach these schools and you meet one of their objectives of placing students successfully, right? And then support them, saying that we will also help you design the curriculum, to Suresh's point, saying we have to find time to do this. Then I'm not making it sound like a cakewalk, but it's not hard, because it has happened before many times with other industries. So that's one part, answer to, which is really the architectural schools. When I say business schools, I was just giving an analogy. It could be architectural schools, maybe engineering schools, whatever is appropriate. There is the other part, which is the technicians and fitters. And I think they're really probably, I know that all of you possibly have your own academies and training centers and things like that, but really doing something for the industry per se, whether it is through the Skill Development Council of India, through working with the ITIs or whatever, is really the long-term thinking and contribution to the industry. And that comes back to all of you, because going forward the next 10, 20 years, you start getting people in the organization who are much more prepared. In the process, is there any taboos or stigmas around the industry? I remember in retail, there was a huge taboo around working in retail. Those get washed off, because there's a constant messaging in universities and colleges about, how wonderful these offers are, how great these jobs are, and so on and so forth. So then you really are attacking it from various angles and making sure that you're setting the industry up for success for the next 10, 20 years, rather than saying that, in our company, we need 100 people and how do we get those? So I don't know if I'm sounding utopian, but it seems like a doable thing to me.
Yeah, I think that's what is more important. What we do, just to summarize what we are discussing, is training has taken an evolution in the elevator industry in the last 1 decade a lot. But I believe there's a lot of scope for taking us further down. And one of the few suggestions which came in academies, going to schools, colleges. So I think as a passion, just not be, after focus, but we can always have investment in terms of resources, in terms of people to get this passion right. Need to have a very long-term vision, maybe 20 years, 30 years vision to get to the millennial crowd, get to the schools, colleges, so that 30 years down the line, elevator escalator industry will be much a different ball game, a different story, attractive industry as compared to many of the other, I would say, consumer product industries. And I think like automobile, in fact, I always consider that's one of the best one which has gone through evolution since 1983. The Maruti came in, right? What was the automobile industry today? I think that's where a benchmark should be kept for the elevator industry, but that can be done only if we start attacking the root cause, addressing the root cause of skill, the training right at the college level itself. In fact, with that, I invite Anita and say that if she, as a organizer of this big venture, I would say, yeah, hats off to you, Anita. The third day, success day for you, for all of us in that. How can you carry it forward? We have a team of 4 people here on this subject. So can you help us in getting it forward, either through your magazines? That is, she also heads the EW Elevator World magazine through that. So how can you do that? Maybe you should kick off the initiative on this subject. So with that, I request Anita to say the closing remarks for this panel.
Sure. Thank you to all of you, and thank you there. It's a really important task which we have ahead. And from the point of view of Elevator World India, which is a magazine which is in a constant connect with the industry, I think various things can be done there, having a dedicated column of writing, or even now today with our social media and all that, we can have these kind of discussion on a regular basis and try to elevate the perception of the industry. What I have seen in my past 15 years is that the industry is always struggling because there is a shortage of manpower. So when you have a manpower, you are utilizing them to run the business. Now, how much time will you get to develop the soft skills of these people so that they become the warriors for you, they become the front end for you? So there is definitely a challenge, and I feel this challenge is because as an industry, we need to really start at a grassroots level. The skill development should start from the schooling level. It's not that we should teach our children to be just academically great. If a child wants to really become, skilled in certain area, that should start from there. And like you all very rightly mentioned, it should become a course in the colleges and all that, so that as an industry, we represent a very smart industry which attracts talent. So from our end, definitely what we can assure to do is, bring up the right kind of content through the publication, bring out the right kind of opportunities like this to talk, and, connect the industry with the right kind of stakeholders. So I'm very, very much willing to work with Uday and all of you to see that whatever we can do, we would do from our side. Thank you so much, and wonderful to have you all. And if you all have time, our next, presentation is on standard fire rules across India, which is going to be definitely interesting for everyone. And that starts at 3 o'clock. And once again, thank you. Thank you, Garima. Thank you, Shakir and Suresh, for being such a wonderful panelist. And thank you, Uday sir, for moderating it so well.
Welcome. Thank you. All of you. Have a nice day. See you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.